Good afternoon. I want to begin this week's video on literacy in the classroom across the grades with the retelling of an exchange I had with a friend. I went to see him about something and I asked him how he was managing with his kids since they're not going back to school. And he had begun by telling me that his son was celebrating his 8th birthday today. And I thought, I couldn't believe how much time had flown. And we were talking about the fact that his daughter seemed to be doing so well. And whenever his son had some problems, the older sister took over and was able to help him with his problems. And I said to him at the time, and this is in the interchange, I said, Tim, you need to tell your daughter that I said that teaching is a wonderful profession. It can be a wonderful career, a lifelong career. And it doesn't always mean just being in a classroom. It can be so many other things besides being a classroom teacher. But being a classroom teacher is certainly important. And he said, Howard, she is so good with kids. She will be at the table with my wife and I and our son, and something will happen, and we'll get very frustrated with our son. And she'll say, Mom and Dad, just leave it with me and go away. And she takes over and she smooths the waters. And he said that she likes to teach. And that reminded me of the fact that there were so many students when I first got to meet them in the College of Education, in the teacher education program that I was the chair of, that would say they got into teaching because when they were little, they loved to teach everybody. This one would have a table set up in the garage and she would have a little school, or that one would talk about how much she loved coaching and working with young children and helping them learn sports. And it occurred to me because I said to Tim, Tim, when she teaches her brother, she is deepening her understanding of the world. We underestimate the value of having older kids work with younger kids. And I remember I set up a situation where older kids worked with younger kids on science projects. And the principal was not that happy with me that I had done that. But now looking back even more, I want to reinforce the fact that when an older student, sits with a younger student and tries to help that younger student write or draw a picture or read carefully and distinctly, two people are learning, not just one. We overlook the learning, the repetition of lessons going on in the mind when an older child works with a younger child. In the school, it's not easy to organize, but we overlook an opportunity if we don't provide for opportunities for older kids to be buddied with younger kids, or more capable students to be buddied with less capable students. Let's say let's say we're trying to encourage younger kids to learn how to read, and we take a grade 4 student and buddy that grade 4 student with the grade 1 student and give them a book. And the grade 4 student is reading the story to the grade 1 student and pointing out the words and struggling to help them understand how to read them. By struggling to solve a problem, we're enhancing skill development. The more we rehearse trying to convey knowledge, the deeper our knowledge becomes. Because when you stop and think about it, if you're trying to help a child understand how to read using the vowels, let's say, the vowels, simple words, vowels, and consonants. And the older child is drawing attention to the patterns in language, then those patterns are going to be in the back of that older student's mind when that older student is confronted with a word that they can't understand or they can't read. They're teaching decoding skills while they're also learning those decoding skills. There are so many things that happen in a school that begin with the assumption that grades matter and classrooms matter, and we should allow teachers to work with their students behind closed doors. Roland Barthes, a pedagogue from a generation ago, or maybe more, used to say that teachers are like kindergarten students running around behind closed doors and not getting a chance to interact with other teachers. When we solve problems, the most natural thing in the world is for us to go to someone else and run the situation by another person. It's also a mental health skill. How much better do we all feel when we unburdened our souls and we tell a friend the things that are bothering us? Because the friend sees things through a slightly different lens. In the school, the older child sees the younger child through a very different lens than the teacher. The closer in age, the easier it is for them to interact. And oftentimes, a student can unlock another student's attempt to understand something faster than the teacher in the classroom. What does this have to do with literacy? One of the important skills in literacy is fluency, being able to read fluently and not stumble over the words. So if you take a grade 4 student who is struggling with reading fluency, they struggle with the words they have to read, it's often because they're reading words at a higher level. If you give them an easier book to read and you ask them to go and you give them a challenge to help a younger student practice their reading skills, the older student doesn't think in terms of their being helped with their problems. They think in terms of helping someone else with their problems. So they not only reinforce their own decoding skills and reading fluency development, but they're also enhancing their self image. The image of a teacher who turns around and can help his or her students acquire skills, become better at whatever it is the challenge is a huge impetus to raised awareness of one's abilities and understanding what's involved, whether that be coaching younger kids in sports skills on the field or in the gymnasium, or reading with older students reading with younger students and practicing the words that they're stumbling with and having trouble decoding so they can read them better, or with art skills or music skills or math skills. working at helping students practice their math skills. When two age mates or two children who are close in age work together, it is so much easier than when a younger child has to go to an adult for the same help. Literacy can be advanced in so many different ways if we stop and think about the opportunities in any one day for older students to help younger students. Sometimes it's vice versa. Sometimes there's a younger student who's very good at a sport who can come in and help an older student learn the same skills. It's all about advancing skill development together, picking each other up and helping them get ahead. Whether it's literacy in the track and field, or in the gymnasium, or in the library. Never underestimate the power of buddying up and collaborating, because there's skill development and communication skills and empathy skills that will serve both students well in the long run. Today's lesson.